The Tennessee Pass, located in central Colorado, is one of the highest mountain passes in the United States, with an elevation of 10,424 feet. It was also a training ground for U.S. Army troops during World War II, as well as home to the 10th Mountain Division, which was created for alpine warfare. This pass over the Continental Divide can simply be accessed by automobilists who may be traveling on Highway 24 between Midturn and Leadville. The Tennessee Pass has sustained itself in playing a crucial role in the history of Colorado's high country. A rail line over the pass was first constructed in 1881 by the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad. By the mid-1880s, the line became part of its augmentation to the Aspen area, constructed in order to beat the Colorado Midlands standard gauge route to the rich mining area. In 1890, a new standard gauge line was built from Pueblo to Grand Junction, and, in conjecture with the Colorado Midland Railway, a tunnel was constructed about 200 feet below the summit. In 1945, this tunnel will be replaced by a newer tunnel, and from there, the Rio Grande Tennessee Pass line was the highest active mainline railroad pass in the United States. The Rio Grande owned the pass until it was taken over by the Southern Pacific in the late 1980s, and then followed by the Union Pacific in 1997. But now, let's move on to today's story.
February 7th, 1989, Denver and Rio Grande Western train number 134-006, an eastbound manifest, was making its way to the grade. The concept of the head end is unknown, but what we do know is that the train consisted of 62 cars and 3 helpers on the rear end, which consisted of Denver and Rio Grande Western GP40-2, number 3108, and SD40T-2s, number 5402 and 5408. Unfortunately, the trip didn't go so smoothly. The train made its first emergency stop when it lost its air at milepost 294, due to an air hose separation. Okay, let's back up a bit and talk about how air brakes work. The train air brakes is placed on lowering brake pipe pressure to apply the brakes, and increasing brake pipe pressure to release the brakes. The air brake system must be charged with compressed air for very good use. You see, air supply from the locomotive charging each reservoir on each car. When the brakes are fully charged, it's 125 psi, or pound per square inch. But when the train is rolling along while the brakes are released in control, the train would maintain it between 60 to 90 psi. If the crew wants to save air if they are low on air, then the only thing that they rely on are the handbrakes. But we'll come back to that later.
After the problem was fixed, or so they thought, the train finally continued on.
The next 6 miles up the grade was uneventful. The train is making its way up the grade, while the crew from both the head end and the rear end are safely maintaining its speed without issues, well, at least for now. But unknown to them, the problems were about to get worse soon enough. In the next mile, the train made a stop again at milepost 287 due to the same situation, but after another 30-minute wait for repairs, the train is well underway again. It would be the train's next unexpected stop that would set the runway in motion, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. In the next 3 miles, the train suffered a pulled drawbar 6 cars back, or known as a drawbar separation, occurred. And after 1 hour and 10 minutes into fixing the drawbar, the crew heard a loud snap from car 56 and starts seeing cars behind it rolling down, and with enough force, it also pushed the helpers down the grade. Then it was off to the races.
The helper crew immediately note that something was wrong and quickly bailed out of the locomotives and were unharmed, but there is nothing that the crew can do to save their train. But every second the runaway keeps up more and more speed down the grade without slowing down or stopping. All they can do is just wait for their fortunate fate to come.
And as the runaway train was rumbling through milepost 288,
Disaster struck. The train derails in an awful mess. The first section derailed at milepost 288.6 just east of Padu Tunnel. The rest of the doomed train continued on for another 1.4 miles before derailing at milepost 280, just beyond Padu. All 3 locomotives suffered catastrophic damage. So what happened?
Let's jump back to February 6th, the day the train was hitched up to the helper set. The train would incur a 30-minute standstill as a result of an air hose separation, and during this time, a crucial detail was left unnoticed by both the head-end crew and helper crew. The brake pipe on locomotive 3108 was never hooked to the rest of the consist, therefore devoiding the train of essential air for the train's air brakes. Turning to the manual handbrakes, an investigation revealed that not a single handbrake on the freight cars nor locomotives, for that matter, had been applied. This was done to smoothen the trip, hoping to avoid what could have been any issues stemming from the handbrakes. After the crash, all 3 locomotives had been extensively damaged. SD40T-2 5408 was deemed totaled by the company and cut up, while both locomotives 3108 and 5402 were rebuilt following the wreck. 3108 was sold to American European Express and renumbered to number 2, before then being sold to National Railway Equipment. In late 1998, it was sold to Kansas City Southern and renumbered again to 4764 before then being renumbered a third time to 2899 a few years later. It was spotted in 2022 in Texas and is likely still in operational service. Locomotive 5402 had also been sold to National Railway Equipment following rebuilds to a conventional SD40-2 model before the Canadian Pacific purchased the locomotive, renumbering it to 5449. It was then sold to First Union Rail and renumbered again to 3021, before lastly working on the Alabama and Gulf Coast, serving as 3375. The locomotive, along with additional locomotives of the same class, had been mandated by the EPA for scrapping in recent years.
It's been 35 years since that runaway occurred, but despite this, another runaway occurred just almost 3 months after this one. On May 12, 1988, SP7551 East ran away down the grade before crashing into Duffy Street. If you want to watch this video, the link to the video will be in the description below. And unfortunately, the scene of the runaways at Tennessee Pass was only just getting started.